Okay. Have you ever, like, had one of those moments where you just totally swear that something happened one way,
Yeah.
but then, like, your friend remembers it so differently?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Totally.
was that celebrity actually at that party, or were we both making it up?
Right.
It really makes you wonder, like, how much of what we think is reality is actually out there,
Mm-hmm.
and how much of it is, well, kind of just made up by our brains.
Yeah. Yeah.
So today, we're going to do a deep dive into this whole idea of what is reality.
Okay.
We found this awesome YouTube video that explores this from all these different angles.
Yeah.
You know, Buddhist philosophy, scientific research, the whole shebang.
All right.
And by the end of this deep dive, I think you're going to walk away not just with, like, some really cool facts,
Yeah.
but maybe even a whole new way of looking at the world, which,
I love that.
yeah, and hopefully it might even help you, I don't know, like, deal with conflicts a little better.
Yeah.
Embrace change, maybe even just appreciate everyday moments more deeply. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, that whole agreeing to disagree thing you're just talking about with memories.
Right.
It's not just some random thing people say. It actually turns out
Yeah.
eyewitness accounts, which you'd think would be super reliable, right?
Yeah, source.
Like, they're wrong. A staggering 1/3 of the time.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, 1/3.
That's huge.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's kind of blowing my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes that argument that I had with my friend about, like, what happened at that concert a few years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Like, even more unsettling, I was so sure I was right
Of course.
about what the lead singer said.
Right, and that's exactly the point, right?
Okay.
Our brains, they aren't just these, like, recording devices
Oh, okay.
passively capturing reality.
Right.
They're actively constructing it. Filtering information through, like, our own unique experiences, our biases, our expectations, you name it.
So it's not even just that our memories are fuzzy. You're saying, like, our perception in the moment
Yes.
can be totally unreliable.
That's right.
Okay.
It really challenges that old, like, clockwork universe model,
Yeah.
from classical physics, where they just thought, like, reality was just this objective, fixed thing.
Right.
But neuroscience is now showing us that
Yeah.
our brains are way more active participants in shaping the reality that we actually experience.
Okay. I'm intrigued, but I'm also a little terrified.
Yeah.
So break this down for me. How does the brain actually construct reality?
Oh,
What does that even mean?
think of your senses,
Okay.
like your sight, sound, touch. All of them, they're just gathering raw data from the world.
Okay.
And then your brain takes that data
Yeah.
and it creates, like, a cohesive experience out of it.
Mm.
Kind of like a movie editor piecing together, like, a film.
Right.
But in that process, your brain's making a ton of assumptions, and it fills in the gaps based on what it expects to see.
So it's like our brains are basically just constantly making, like, educated guesses about what's real
Exactly.
based on super limited information.
Yeah.
Wow.
And sometimes those guesses can lead to some pretty crazy results.
Like what, Rudy?
Remember that whole Yanni or Laurel thing?
Oh my gosh.
That audio clip that, like, went totally viral?
Yes.
People literally heard different words, even though it was the exact same sound.
It's the same file, yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
And, like, our individual brain structures, past experiences, expectations, all that stuff,
Right.
it all plays a role in shaping what we hear, what we perceive.
Oh my gosh, yeah. My family was totally split on that one.
Really?
Oh yeah.
That's funny.
Some people heard Yanni, some people heard Laurel, and we all thought everyone was, like, messing with us.
Right.
It's hilarious now.
Yeah.
But it really highlights how subjective our perception can be.
Totally. And that's just a simple audio example.
Right.
Imagine how much more complex it gets with visuals,
Oh yeah.
emotions, social interactions, like...
Oh my gosh. All of it. All right, that's enough to make me question everything I see in here.
Yeah, you're right.
So give me some more examples from the video. What other evidence is there
Okay.
for this whole constructed reality idea?
So they talk about things like phantom limb pain,
Okay.
where people who've lost a limb, they can still feel sensations.
Really?
Yeah, even pain
Wow.
in the limb that's not even there.
That's wild.
It's a crazy example of how powerful the brain's interpretation of reality can be. And then there's this thing called the McGurk effect.
Burke effect.
Yeah, this one's a total trip.
Okay.
Like, if you see someone saying ga, ga,
Okay.
but the sound you hear is bat.
Oh.
your brain might actually perceive duh.
What?
Yeah, it blends the sensory input
That's wild.
into something totally new.
Hold on, rewind.
Yeah.
The brain can actually, like, create a new sound
Yeah.
based on conflicting visual and audio input?
Mm-hmm.
That's wild.
That's the McGurk effect.
Wow. Have you ever experienced that?
Oh, yeah.
Like, have you ever felt like someone's words didn't match their tone?
Yeah.
And, like, how did that affect how you understood the situation?
It makes you wonder how many things
No.
we might be misinterpreting because of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then, of course, good old optical illusions.
Yeah, those are classic.
Right.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
the Muller-Lyer illusion,
Okay.
where the two lines are the same length,
Uh-huh.
but they look different because of the arrows.
I know. It gets me every time.
Right.
Like, my brain knows they're the
Yeah.
same length, but I still see them as different.
Exactly.
It's like my brain is actively trying to trick me.
Yes, it's not just passively recording,
Mhm.
it's constructing the most likely interpretation, even if it's not actually accurate.
Wow. And this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Because, you know, this whole idea of a constructed reality,
Yeah.
it aligns so well
Yes.
with this core concept
I was just thinking that.
in Buddhist philosophy.
Yeah.
Dependent origination.
Exactly.
Oh, I'm sensing a major aha moment coming on. All right, tell me.
So tell me more about this Buddhist perspective. How does it fit with everything we've been talking about?
Okay, so dependent origination basically means that nothing exists independently.
Okay.
Like everything arises because this web
Okay.
of causes and conditions,
Yeah.
even like seemingly solid objects.
Yeah.
Like, let's say your smartphone.
Okay.
It's only a phone because of this whole chain of events
Right.
and components. Like all these things had to happen.
I mean, yeah, without the metals, the factories, the software developers, like all that stuff,
Yeah, all
it
of it.
wouldn't be a phone.
Right.
It's all interconnected.
It's all connected.
And this concept, it applies not just to objects,
Oh, okay.
but also to our thoughts, our feelings, and even our sense of self.
Hold on. Even our sense of self
Yes.
is dependent on other things.
Yes.
How can that be?
Well, think about it. Who you are
Yeah.
is shaped by your genetics,
Okay.
your upbringing, your experiences, your relationships, the culture you live in, like all of it.
I mean, yeah, definitely not the same person I was 5 years ago.
Right.
I can't believe some of the things I used to believe.
Right.
Or the things I used to, like, think were important.
Exactly.
I've changed so much, and I'm sure I'll keep changing, but
And that's the point.
yeah.
That's what this all means.
But what does that have to do with
Okay,
this
sis.
whole, like, dependent origination idea?
It means that even our sense of self
Yeah.
isn't this fixed, unchanging entity.
Mm.
And Buddhism uses this term, emptiness.
Centimeter.
Yeah, to describe this
Quiet.
lack of inherent
Okay.
independent existence
Hmm.
in all things.
Okay, now I'm really lost.
Okay.
Does that mean, like, nothing is real?
Oh, no.
Are we all just, like, floating around in some void?
No, not at all.
That sounds a little bleak.
It's not bleak. It's actually really freeing.
Okay.
So emptiness, or sunyata,
Sunyata.
yeah, as it's called in Buddhism,
Okay.
it doesn't mean nothingness.
Okay.
It means things lack
Okay.
a solid,
Right.
unchanging essence.
Mm.
It's about recognizing that things are constantly
Okay.
changing,
Yeah.
evolving,
Right.
interconnected.
Right.
Think about water,
Okay.
like ice, liquid, and steam.
Yeah.
They're all water, right?
They are all water, yeah.
But there's no single waterness
Right.
that exists
Okay.
independently of those forms.
Okay, I think that analogy helps.
Yeah.
So you're saying our thoughts, feelings, even our sense of self,
Yes.
they're kind of like water.
Yes.
Always changing, flowing, taking different forms,
Right.
depending on the situation.
Yes.
Okay.
And to understand how this all fits together,
Yeah.
Buddhism talks about these two truths.
Two truths.
Yeah.
Are we talking about alternate dimensions now?
Not quite alternate dimensions,
Okay.
but it's like different levels of understanding reality.
Got it.
So there's the conventional truth,
Right.
which is the level of everyday experience,
Okay.
like where we interact with the world, like
Right.
using money, having relationships,
Right. Practical stuff.
driving cars, you know.
Yeah.
And then there's the ultimate truth,
Okay.
which acknowledges
Go.
impermanence,
Right.
interconnectedness,
Mm-hmm.
and emptiness
Got it.
of all things.
Okay.
So it's not that one truth is right and the other is wrong.
Right.
They're both valid ways
Got it.
of looking at the world.
Okay, so they both have their place.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And how we navigate between those two truths is where things get really interesting, especially when it comes to like challenges, dealing with conflict, change, all of that.
Okay, I'm officially hooked. This is making you rethink everything I thought I knew.
Good.
About, well, reality. So
I like it.
Tell me more. How do we actually live
with
these two truths?
Think about it this way.
Okay.
Well, like on a conventional level, you might be having like a really heated argument with a friend.
Yeah.
And your emotions are, you know, totally real and valid in that moment.
Right.
But by like tapping into that ultimate truth, you can also recognize that. Like, hey, this situation is temporary.
Right.
You and your friend, you're both, you know, kind of caught up in this web of thoughts and emotions that are constantly changing.
Yeah.
And neither of you has this like fixed self that's being attacked.
So it's like taking a step back from that intensity.
Exactly.
And seeing the bigger picture. I can see how that could create like more space for understanding and maybe even a bit of humor about how seriously we're taking it all.
Totally. Yeah. And that shift in perspective.
Yeah.
It can lead to more compassion for yourself and for the other person rather than getting like stuck in that blame game.
Okay, that makes sense. But this whole impermanence thing.
Yeah.
Especially like when it's applied to the self.
Uh-huh.
It's a bit of a head scratcher. Doesn't it kind of make everything feel pointless? What's the motivation if it's all just going to change anyway?
It might seem counterintuitive.
Yeah.
But recognizing impermanence can actually be like incredibly freeing.
Okay.
You know, think about it.
Yeah.
When we like cling to things as if they're going to last forever.
Right.
Whether it's a job, a relationship, or even like our youth, you know, we just set ourselves up for disappointment and suffering.
Okay. So you're suggesting that like accepting that things are fleeting, good and bad, can actually help us deal with the ups and downs.
Totally.
A little better.
Yeah, the video even points out that this impermanence, it's not just about the big stuff. It's happening all the time.
Right.
Even in the most like mundane things.
Okay.
The weather's constantly changing.
Yeah.
Our moods fluctuate throughout the day.
Right.
Even our breath is impermanent.
Wow, I never thought of it that way.
Right.
I guess you're right. Everything's in a constant state of flux.
Yeah.
Even this conversation.
Exactly.
In a few minutes, we'll be done, and it'll just be a memory.
Poof. Gone.
Oh, man. I'm getting a little existential here.
It's all part of the process. But remember, like recognizing this impermanence, it doesn't have to be depressing.
Okay.
It can actually help us appreciate the preciousness of each moment.
Okay.
Knowing that it's fleeting.
So instead of like getting caught up in regretting the past or worrying about the future, we can try to be more present and just savor what's happening right now.
Exactly. It's like a built-in reminder to be more mindful.
Okay. I'm loving this shift in perspective. It's like a whole new way of experiencing the world.
I know. It's cool, right?
But how do we actually practice this?
Oh, okay.
This awareness of impermanence.
Yeah.
It all sounds very philosophical.
Yeah.
Are there any like tangible steps we can take to really integrate this into our lives?
Totally. There are definitely ways to like cultivate this awareness.
Okay.
The video, it suggests this like simple but powerful practice. Throughout your day, just pick one thing.
Okay.
It could be like a flower, the sky, your own breath.
Yeah.
And just observe it closely.
Okay.
Notice how it's constantly changing, even in like subtle ways.
So it's about training ourselves to see the impermanence that's already there.
Yes.
Almost like a mindfulness exercise.
Exactly. It's about moving from an intellectual understanding to a direct experience.
I gotcha.
And when your mind inevitably wanders, which it will, just gently bring it back to the present moment.
Okay.
What's happening right now? Just this breath, this sound, this feeling.
That's really helpful. It seems like a really manageable way to start like bringing these abstract concepts into daily life.
Right.
It's like a mini meditation we can do anytime, anywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and here's another challenge the video poses.
Okay.
Pay attention to how your own sense of self shifts and changes over time.
Wait, didn't we already cover that?
We did!
I thought I was starting to grasp that concept.
We did, but this time it's about experiencing it directly, not just like intellectually understanding it.
Right.
Think about all the versions of you that have existed throughout your life. You have memories, relationships, a sense of personal history.
Yeah.
But you're also not the same person you were years ago.
Oh, man. That is so true.
Right.
I was looking through some old photos the other day, and I had a good laugh at how much I've changed. I hardly even recognize myself.
Exactly. It's a great example of how we're constantly evolving.
Yeah.
And by recognizing this like fluidity within ourselves, we can loosen the grip on this like fixed identity.
Right.
And be more adaptable to life's changes.
It's like we're always a work in progress.
Exactly, we are.
Wow, this whole deep dive has really expanded my mind.
Good.
We've gone from questioning the fridge light.
I know, right?
To like rethinking our entire sense of self.
It's a journey.
But I do have to ask, if our sense of self is so fluid and impermanent, what does that mean for our relationships?
That's an excellent question.
Like, does it make them more confusing?
It's a great question, and one that the video explores in a really insightful way.
Awesome.
And it leads us to some even deeper implications of these ideas about reality.
Oh, I like where you're going with this.
Which we'll explore in the next part.
Okay, listeners, stay tuned, because we're about to go even deeper down this rabbit hole. I can't wait to see where this goes next.
So we've talked about how our sense of self is like way more fluid and impermanent than we might think.
Yeah.
But how does that understanding actually affect our relationships with other people?
Well, it's a great question.
Yeah.
And one that the video explores in a really insightful way.
Okay.
You know, if our perceptions are shaping our reality so strongly, like we've been talking about, it kind of makes you wonder, like, what else might we be like misinterpreting or overlooking when it comes to, you know, the people in our lives?
Oh, I like where you're going with this. It's like those optical illusions where our brains make these assumptions that lead us to see things that aren't actually there.
Exactly.
Are you suggesting there might be like illusions in our relationships too?
Totally. Like, think about the stories we tell ourselves about like who our partners are, what our friends are capable of,
what our families expect from us. You know, those stories, they're often based on like past experiences, cultural conditioning, maybe even some limiting beliefs we've picked up along the way.
So we might be like projecting these stories onto other people.
Yes.
And creating a reality that doesn't even actually reflect who they are.
Exactly.
It's like we're putting them in these little boxes.
Yes.
Based on our own perceptions.
Yeah.
Which might not even be accurate.
And just like with those optical illusions, once we become aware of the trick, like our perception can totally shift.
Right.
We might start to see our loved ones in a whole new light.
Yeah.
You know, recognizing qualities we hadn't noticed before, or letting go of judgments we were holding on to.
Okay, that makes sense. But this whole letting go thing, it seems like a big part of this new understanding of reality is about like releasing our attachments to these fixed ideas.
Yeah.
But how do we actually do that?
It's definitely a process.
Yeah.
It's not like a switch we can just flip on and off.
Right.
But the video offers some practical steps.
Okay, good.
One of the most powerful is just becoming more aware of our thoughts.
Okay.
Like when we notice ourselves judging someone or making assumptions, clinging to a particular story about them, we can like pause and ask ourselves, is this really true?
Right.
Or is this just my perception?
So it's like cultivating that same awareness we talked about with impermanence.
Exactly.
But now we're applying it to our relationships.
Yeah.
We're becoming more mindful of our own thoughts and how they're shaping our interactions.
That's a great way to put it.
With other people.
Yeah, and it's not about like denying our feelings or pretending that like challenges don't exist.
Of course. Okay.
It's more about approaching these situations with a sense of curiosity and open-mindedness. You know, instead of saying you always do this, we might ask like, I'm feeling hurt by this. Can we talk about it?
It's like shifting from a place of blame and judgment to a place of like understanding and connection.
Exactly.
And it makes sense that would lead to more fulfilling relationships.
Yeah, right.
Because we're relating to people as they are.
Yeah.
Not as we imagine them to be.
Yeah, and it also opens up the possibility for like growth and transformation, both within ourselves and in our relationships.
Okay.
When we let go of those rigid expectations, we create space for like something new and unexpected to emerge.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like we're allowing our relationships to become these like dynamic, evolving things.
Yeah.
Rather than like trying to force them into some predetermined mold.
Exactly.
But it also makes me think about the bigger picture.
Okay.
If we're letting go of all these fixed ideas about ourselves and the world around us, what does that mean for our sense of purpose? I mean, if we're not striving for specific goals or trying to achieve a certain level of success, what's left to motivate us?
That's a profound question that a lot of people grapple with, and there's no like one size fits all answer.
Okay.
But from a Buddhist perspective, the ultimate purpose of life isn't about achieving some external outcome. It's about awakening to our true nature, recognizing our interconnectedness with all things, and living in a way that reflects that understanding.
It's not about what we do, but about who we are and how we show up in the world.
Exactly.
It's about like embodying a certain way of being.
Yes.
Okay.
And that can manifest in so many ways.
Yeah.
It might be like raising a family with love and compassion.
Right.
Creating art that inspires others.
Yeah.
Working for social justice, or just like being a kind and present friend. Right. There's no right or wrong path. As long as it's aligned with like our values, and contributes to the well-being of ourselves and others.
That's both liberating and a little daunting.
Yeah.
It's exciting to think about all the possibilities, but it also requires like a lot of trust in ourselves and in the process of life.
It does.
Okay.
And that's where, the practices we've been talking about come. Cultivating awareness.
Yeah.
Recognizing impermanence. Letting go of attachments.
Right.
These are all like tools that can help us navigate the uncertainty and find our own unique path.
This whole deep dive has been incredible.
I know. It's a lot to take in.
We've gone from questioning the fridge light to exploring the nature of reality, the self, our relationships, and even the purpose of life.
It's all connected.
It's definitely giving me a lot to think about.
Good.
So as we wrap up this mind expanding journey, is there one final thought you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Remember that the question, what is real? Is a really powerful one.
Okay.
Keep asking it. Keep exploring and keep opening yourself up to new possibilities.
I like that.
The journey itself is the destination.
I love that. And on that note, we'll leave you with a little challenge.
Okay.
Pick one thing today. And really observe its changes. Notice how your mind interprets it.
Yes.
It's like a mini experiment in seeing reality anew.
I love it.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and until next time, keep questioning,
keep learning,
and keep expanding your sense of what's possible.